Good evening, and welcome to another Stormgate PTR editor showcase video, this time featuring summoning spells. And I would like to point out that this will be the second last video for a while, because I will be trying to make an actual map now, with the knowledge I've gotten from making these videos. The purpose of these videos has from the start been to try and share some of my limited coding knowledge to create different types of spells with enough explanation to help you mod your own content, be it in Stormgate or to use the concept described here in similar moddable games or your own personal games. After this video I will try to make a video to cover some of the PTR content that has been experimented with and showcase some of the custom maps once they're available. The latest PTR patch has had to be delayed because it balked the matchmaking on the ladder, but there are supposedly 4 new custom maps that might be available soon. Autogate Co-op, Obelisk Offensive, Storm Scourge RPG and Void Life Heroes RPG, plus 2 maps that are already existing and is available, Stormgate Battle Arena and Tree for All. I will cover these as quickly as the 4 new maps are available. However, if you have any requests that you want me to make, or of spells, or try to explain some of the aspects of the editor, feel free to comment so in the comment section. I will try to make a video about it. And now on with the video. The concepts today will be Bladelegions, which will passively be summoning pet-style units, which will be following the origin units. Dormant Harbringer, which will place a trap unit, which will then summon a stronger unit once an enemy walks close enough to it. Volatile Horde, which will spawn a stream of wild units, which will walk around on a map and try to find enemies to explode on. And lastly, Mirror Image, which will teleport the caster to one of 4 locations and spawn 3 decoy units at the remaining 3 spots. For the first spell of the video, this is technically not even a spell, it is simply one game effect. Let's see. Behavior unit spawning. This is almost the entirety of what this will be. Usually things tends to be far more complicated, but I will be showcasing this anyway. Usually things tends to be far more complicated, but I wanted to showcase this because this gets the job done of what I wanted to create. The first thing first, the flags. Spawn, kill, spawn on death. This means that units that are spawned from the origin unit will die if the origin unit that has the behavior will die. And here, spawn leash range. This is an alternative you can set to a value. If this is set to 0, then the units that are spawned can go all over the map, but I'll be setting this to 10, which will be the same as the weapon attack range of the Animancer that I will attach this onto. And spawn max count. This will be determining how many units that can exist at the same time from the origin unit. If I had 2 of these, then I could have a maximum of 16 total, and once the unit dies, then more can be spawned, but only 8 total. And spawn period. This determines how often the units will spawn up to a maximum of the max count. And spawn unit. This will determine what unit it is that will be spawned. And I'll be setting this to the Kree. Now for the secondary thing here. Game effect set. This is entirely optional. But I wanted to have this to have a graphical effect onto the unit whenever it's spawned. Usually an set effect will be used to launch multiple game effects at the same time, but I'm not gonna have any effect. I'm just gonna have impact effects, which will be playing a smaller graphical effect when the game set is launched. But I will let you see what it looks like first before I apply the effect here. And now to apply this to a unit. And here, behaviors and buffs. I'm not entirely sure what is the difference between these two, but as you try things and try to create stuff on your own, you will hopefully quickly see the difference. For the buff, I'm fairly certain that I cannot. Yes, I cannot set a behavior here, so you cannot accidentally set things the wrong way here. And that is it for setting this up. And now let's test how things works in practice. And now we're in the game, and as you can see, the unit will be gradually be spawning units up to an 8 total. And I can control them if I so desire. And now you'll be seeing there are a couple of here behind that will not be engaging because they are outside of the aggro range. And now as units are dying, then they will be respawning 1 second after they have actually died, as you can see here. Now give me a moment, I'll set disengage. Okay, and now for instance, now you see here is approximately the leash range of the unit. Now what happens when I try to order them to go outside? They will go back, but when I give a manual order for them to go outside, the original order will not be cancelled, it will just be put down in the priority. And I could go and solve this by giving them a manual order to stop or move within the leash range. But I'll be showcasing you. But I'll be show how to create a more of a pet-like behavior to make them operate independently. Now give me a moment. Now first thing first, this thing here that I will be using purely for graphical effect. This I will be applying now to the unit, to the tree. And in the effects here, in the effects here, these can be, you can make these be played at the certain stages of the unit. For instance, when it is birthed, when it is trained from a structure, or it is, or if it is created period, then such as when it is spawned by a spell, for instance. And here on creation, I'll be setting this to. So whenever the unit is created, it will be setting off this set game effect, which will only be playing a graphical effect. And I will go into the unit's weapon. And on units in Stormgate does not have an independent aggro range of their own. How their aggro range is determined by the weapons, and in this case the Kree's default weapon has an aggro range of 7. So I will be setting this to double of the leash range of the Cold Bladelegion behavior. So regardless of where the unit is within the leash circle, it will always be engaging enemies that are within range. And vision radius, I will be setting this to 0, so that the unit will be trying to attack units within a range of 20 around itself, but it will only be attacking units that other units provide a vision for. Even if the Kree is standing right here, it will not provide any additional vision around, so it won't be going ping-ponging back and forth, trying to engage enemies that are way outside of here, for instance. And flag sale. I will make the unit uncommandable. What this will mean is that you cannot give the unit orders directly, but it will still be acting. For instance, if it has an autocast ability with autocast enabled, then it will cast spells. Or if a unit gets too close, then the unit will be attacking it. It will be attacking the enemy. But for the leash range, even if it is uncommandable, it will still be following the origin unit. And now let's test it out and see how things works now. Now I'm in the game, and as you can see, every time a new unit is spawned, it will have a fancy effect on itself. And the moment I cannot give the unit order, but the moment an enemy comes within a range, the unit will attack them. And as you can see, they do not provide any vision of their own, so there will not be. If a unit hypothetically was standing on the edge right here, it will not be going ping-ponging back and forth, trying to attack units that are at a range 20 all the way over here. And now hopefully you will understand a little bit more about how the behavior spawn unit works. It took way more time to explain than was needed. All the information you really needed was presented in the first minute, but there you go. Now for the second spell of the video, Dormant Harbringer. What this spell will do is that it will create a trap unit, which when enemy unit walks too close, will spring it, and a greater unit, a more tougher unit will be spawning from the trap unit. Now let's get started. First thing first, on Validator. What this will do is it will create logic conditions and scenarios where a unit's abilities or weapons can be used or not. In this case, most of the validators in this spell will be revolved around location is pathable, which means that which will be checking if a ground unit is able to walk there or not. For instance, up here, I would not be able to create a spell because unit is not able to walk there. Or for instance, directly on the cliff walls, if I try to cast a spell here, then the spell would fail. Now for create unit trap. For this I will be using the effect location. I'll be creating this to point. This means that when you try to create a trap and set this to point, then I will be able to target this anywhere. But if I had only set this to entity, then I would only be able to cast it onto a unit. But with the point out, it can be casted anywhere. And spawn owner. This will be determining who the unit belongs to. If I had simply casted it on the ground here, then I will be spawning a neutral unit. Or if I had used this onto an enemy, then it would be spawning for an enemy unit. But I'll be setting this to caster. This means that whenever this create unit spell is used, it will always be going back to me and creating a unit for me. And a spawn unit, I'll be using Seeker deployed. This is the scouting unit for the Celestial Armada, which is attached onto a tree, usually, but I do not need to create on the tree here. And Dormant Guardian. Since this will be the game effect that will be directly attached onto the spell, this will effectively be operating as this parameter here will effectively operate as the spell's validator to determine if I can cast it on the ground or not. Next up, game effect kill. So I'm just gonna quickly go ahead here and game effect kill, yes. What this will do is that it will instantly be killing the target if this is used on a target. Usually you would have to be removing all of the hit points off on target, but instead of doing so and potentially creating a scenario where a unit has such a large amount of armor, for instance, that it will be surviving the damage output, I could potentially be creating a trap that will be sprung twice. So the game effect kill will be used to a guaranteed kill on target when it is used on it. And I'll be using this onto the caster, so that when the create unit trap uses this effect, it will guarantee that it will kill it. And now for create unit Archangel. This is the unit that will be spawned when the trap has used its effect. I'll be going to effect location and set this to the caster and point, so that for instance when a trap here is sprung, when it uses its effect onto a target, then it will create the Archangel in the place where it is currently standing. This is what a point and caster will effectively accomplish here. And as previously, I'm setting to caster to make sure that this will be my own unit, and I'm setting this to Archangel. Not the flying default one, but the one that is standing on the ground. Next thing up, game effect set. This will be used in order to use multiple game effects at the same time. I could be potentially creating using this to create as many effects as I wanted to, but I will be only using it for 2 here. Now onto the persistent, and now for instance you will see I'll be using this in the periodic slot here, and well, this is a little bit poorly explained. I'll be showcasing this in the weapon instead. For instance, in a weapon slot here, I can only add 1 game effect at a time, but through the set here, if I had to use this on a set effect, I could be making sure that the weapon launches multiple effects at the same time. Now back to the persistent. That's what the purpose of this set is for. Now back to the persistent. What the persistent does is that it will usually be used to either perform an effect multiple times consecutively, or it will be used to do something over a period of time. In this case, I'll be using this to make the weapon over the course of 2 seconds channel for 2 seconds onto the target before it uses its game set effect to kill the caster and spawn an Archangel. And effect location, this will be to entity. This means that the persistent will be channeled onto the entity target, which in this case will be the unit that the weapon is firing at. And for the flags here, I'll be using channeling. This will mean that the unit that is using the weapon or the ability would have to channel the persistent, or the persistent will be cancelled if is interrupted by receiving a new order, or it is stunned or something. Now for the periodic here, I'll be setting this to a count of 1 and a duration of 2, which will mean that over the course of it will take 2 seconds before the persistent launches the game set effect. And I'll be setting the validator here too, which will mean that every time the duration goes down to 0 and it tries to use then any new game effect, if it has the remaining counts, it will first check the validator, and if the conditions are not true for the validator, then the persistent will be cancelled. Meaning that, for instance, if the traps found a flying unit and the flying unit started to fly over here, then the trap unit would not spring its trap, it would cancel the persistent if the periodic validator is not true. And an unreal actor here. In a persistent, an unreal actor will be a particle effect that is channeled between the caster and the target of the target or source to the target. So a small yellow beam will be channeled between the trap and the target that is looking at. And I'll be setting the persistent here too. Since this will be attached onto the weapon, if I had a trap here and a flying unit started here, then the trap would not be start firing its weapon before the flying unit went into the ground location. And now to assemble the weapon. First thing first, the flag. I'll be setting this to channeled. The channeled onto will have to be enabled not just on the persistent but onto the weapon or the ability itself, meaning that the unit will have to stand still and channel the game effect, or it will be cancelled. And I'll be using an icon here. An icon on the weapon will be in the command card where you have the weapon and armor. This will be the icon of what the ability will look like. And for periodic, I'll be setting this to 0. Usually the periodic will be the time frame between attacks, where for instance you shoot a target and it has a period of 2, it will be on 2 seconds cooldown between each attack. But in this case, if the weapon fails, I want the weapon to immediately be starting again and trying to find a new target. And range acquire. Units in Stormgate does not have an I think I mentioned this previously, but units in Stormgate does not have an independent aggro range of their own. An unit's aggro range is determined by the weapon's range acquire. And I'll be setting both of these to 10, so that when the unit gets within a range of 10, it will start channeling its effect. And range slop here. This would mean that if the unit gets within a range 10 of the target but starts walking away, then this will be on grace range where the unit keeps channeling its weapons or continues to try to launch its weapon. But I'll be setting this to 0, so immediately when a unit goes outside of a range of 10, the weapon will be cancelled. And a swing time. This will mean that, for instance, if you have a ranged unit that is stutter stepping, it walks and stops and immediately fires. If it has a swing time of 0, then once the unit stops, it will immediately fire its weapon. But if the unit had a swing time, then it will take, for instance, swing time of 2 seconds. Then once the unit stopped, it will take 2 seconds before it launches its game effect at the target. But I'll be setting this to 2, so it will immediately start channeling its weapon at the target. And weapon fire here. This will determine what game effect will be the weapon will be using. So in this oh no, wait, that's wrong. Sorry. The persistent. So when the weapon is fired, it will start channeling its persistent, and after 2 seconds of persistent channeling, it will use its game effect set. And lastly, for here I will only have enemies and neutral. If without these I could, for instance, I could set down a trap and manually use it to attack friendly units and to spring the trap and create a unit for me. But if I have these 3 disabled, then I cannot use it on the friendly targets to manually spring the trap. And for the button here, I'll be setting this to. This will be used to create an. This will be used to give the appearance of the ability, what it will look like in the command card when you select a unit, next to the stop, attack, move, and patrol, for instance. And now to quickly assemble the spell. First thing first, I'll be setting to cast duration to 2 seconds, meaning that when the unit starts casting its spell, it will be having a 2 second duration before the game effect will be used. And the cast EBFX, this will be a small graphical effect that will be played from the caster towards the location where I will be using it. And game cast effect, this will be the most important thing. When you cast this stage ability, then this will be used. It will be creating the trap unit, and the staged ability here. This is what you will be using when you create most spells in a game. And I'm going into flags. For the sake of making this a little bit fancy, I will be making this uninterruptible. Once the unit goes within the range where it can cast and it has started casting the spell with the cast time, then I will not be able to cancel the spell. And it will, unless the unit is stunned or something else, then it will continue until the spell has been completed. And see. And max range, I'll be setting this to 15, so that the unit will have to go within a range of 15 in order to, it has to approach to a range of 15 before it can cast its spell. And targeting type to location. This means that I will be able to cast the effect on a location. If I had set this to unit, then I would only be able to cast the spell onto the units, and I will get an error message if I targeted the ground. And now I will be quickly applying it to the unit cell. In the editor, the new unit Navi still holds the name Skyte, so that's why I had some problems with finding it. And first thing first, here in the ability list, this will be enabling the unit to allow the unit to cast new spells. Now the unit can cast its Dormant Harbringer in order to create a spell, but also in the command list now. This is the spell that you will be finding in the command card when you select the units. So and the button here, the ability here will be determining the spell, and this will be the button what it will be looking like. And for the row here, you have two rows. The top one is attack, stop, patrol, and so on, and move. this is the upper row will be row number 2. So in order to set spells under the bottom row, you'll be setting this to row number 1, where usually spells are placed. And the slot here will be, slots will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll be just setting this to 1. Also, I forgot something here previously, to mention something. Currently, with the button, here is what you will be using, giving its name and the tooltips when you hover over the spell. This is what it will be named and what the description of it will be. But currently, if you try to create a name, for instance, or an tooltip description, then this will only work until you restart the editor program. After that, you will continue to get a no string found error message. In order to currently in the PTR, currently you will have to change something with the SCV file format change something in the CSV file format, but I do not currently have a software for that, so don't bother putting too much effort into a name and tooltip in the PTR. And also the units. Also, I have to set the weapon to giving it a new weapon. So now the trap unit will have its weapon to try and find the target and spawn the Archangel with. Now let's go and test it and see how it works. And here we are. And now, as you can see, I now have an enemy unit that is continuously patrolling back and forth. And now I will be, once it has passed here, I will create the spell. And now you can see an invisible unit, and it will be. And as you can see now, after a small hiccup, it created its unit. And as you could see, there was a small hiccup here, and I will explain what the problem here is. Here around on the black dot will be a trap belonging to the enemy, and it will be trying to fire it at my unit here. But when I walk directly under it, then the channeling will be interrupted. It will be trying again and again and again as I walk back and forth there, but it will be continuously be failing. Now, as you can see, it keeps trying, but it keeps failing. That is because of the weapons channeling. Now let's go and fix that. And here, channeling. So in order for the weapon to continue, in order to succeed, it will have to channel its effect until the periodic has gone for 2 seconds. But when you get to the weapon here you can see moving turn period. Most units has an turning period of approximately 0.13 seconds to turn around. So when a unit goes directly under it, it will take a 0.3 second for it to turn around. And going to the weapon again. If the enemy goes outside of an angle of 11 degrees away from the unit will not be able to will not be able to launch its weapon, or the channeling will be stopped or interrupted. Will the weapon is channeling, be it will the persistent channeling be an weapon or ability, the unit can turn, but with a small 0.13 second turn time, it will not be able to instantly flip around. So, if I for instance had an arc of 180, this would be an half on pie chart, then this unit could flip. Give me a moment. This unit can zoom back and forth in here as much as it wanted, so long as it's within 180 degrees. And the unit will, the trap could try to pay attention, but if it went full, when past that 180 pie chart, then the persistent would fail, since the weapon would stop channeling. So I'm setting this to 360, meaning that regardless of where the unit is located, then the persistent will continue its effect. Now let's give me a moment. Now let's try it in practice now that I have a 360 degree arc slope. And now I am in the game, and a reminder, the unit's ground coordinate is placed here, and now I'm going to try and go directly under it. As you can see now, it had no problem whatsoever with maintaining its channeling, because it had a 360 degree arc slope. And that's how the Dormant Harbringer works. Let's go for the next spell. Now for the next spell, Volatile Horde. This will be creating a continuous stream of suicide units that will actively be trying to find enemy units and try to explode on them. First thing first, with damage radius. I'll be setting this to having a damage value of 60 and having an area of effect, which will be dealing of damage fraction of 1, meaning that it will be dealing full damage in a radius of 2 around itself, around the location. And with the fancy thing about damage radius is that I can set multiple parameters to for instance set 0.5 and 5, meaning that within a range of 2 it will be dealing full damage, and a range of 5 around the location it will be dealing half damage, which can go on in order to create a greater fallout if you so want to. And now for search filter, I will make sure that when the damage radius goes off, only enemy units will be damaged, even if friendly units are in the area. And entity and caster, meaning that this will be all the damage radius will always be centered around the small units that will be exploding. And I'm looking through the recording here as I was adding things up. This was supposed to be 60, but as I clicked the plus here, they don't confirm the value. So now I'll be setting this to 60, and now it will actually deal the damage. And next for game effect kill, this will be set to caster, so that the suicide units will always be killed no matter what happens. And I'll be setting to game effect set in order to combine these two to an entity and caster, and having the 2 game effects to kill and damage radius. And now to launch projectile. This will be when the small exploding units get close enough to a target, they will jump at the target and explode on them when they come into contact. And for this, usually you'll be using a fireball or something else, an external spell effect, but seeing as I want to launch the unit itself, I'll be using two parameters, anim montage component and fallback unit. With these two enabled, and instead of having instead of having a projectile, what these two parameters will mean that when the unit uses a launch projectile, it will launch itself. And I'll be setting the impact effect to both having the damage radius and the unit killing itself, and the impact location will be the target, and the launch location will be the caster. My apologies. Caster. So that when it uses launch projectile, it will launch from where the caster is standing towards where the target is standing when it uses the weapon data. And quickly for the movement, this will be determining how fast the unit will be flying, and I will be using a lob. What lob will do is that it will create a small catapult effect. So when the unit gets close enough, it will be jumping up in the air with a smaller catapult effect. And how far up will be determined by lob gravity value here, so which I'll be keeping at value of 30. And now to quickly assemble the weapon. The icon here, as mentioned previously, this will be what the weapon looks like in the interface next to the armor, and range acquired to 30, so that seeing as the weapon will be determining the aggro range of the unit as it is trying to find targets, a range of 4, and on launch. See, this is everything. Yes, so that this will mean that when the gremlin has this, when the small exploding unit has this weapon, it will have an aggro range of 30, and once they get within a range of 4, it will launch itself towards the target. And for a buff, this will be used to give the unit a timed life after it has been spawned. The buff visual here, so long as the unit has the buff, it will be having a continuous particle effect, a graphical effect flashing on itself to the what you set it to. And I'll be setting this to a duration of 10, and effect expire to volatile set, meaning that after 10 seconds the unit once the buff expires, the unit will kill itself and deal damage around itself. And I will be having the flanks to hidden and show progress, so that the buff will not be seen in the small unit's interface, but I will be seeing a progress bar going down as the buff progresses towards the 10-second duration. And create unit. This will be creating the unit itself at the effect location will be the point target, meaning that which I will be setting to the persistent here, so that it will be where the persistent is being channeled, it will be spawning the unit. And spawn now to caster, to make sure that the units will be my own and not neutral when I cast it on the ground. And gremlin, which is the unit that will be continuously spawned by this create unit effect. Next up, persistent. The effect location will be the point and target, so that which will be applied to the stage, directly to the stage stability. So where a target will be where the persistent will be channeled at. And this will be periodic, will be a game effect to every time persistence periodic goes off, it will create a gremlin. This will be repeated 1000 times, and with a 0.2 second interval between each time. So long as the persistent goes off this channel, it will create 1000 imps every 0.2 seconds. And we're setting this to channeled as well, so that if the unit that channels this spell will receives a new order, then the periodic here will be cancelled. And for the button here, this will be for in the user interface, the button of the staged ability, which I have set to detonate. And now to assemble the spell itself, with an game cast effect to the persistent and flag to channeled, meaning that the spell will be channeled so long as it to assist the persistent, and the maximum range will be nothing more than 5, which is by default, and targeting type to location, so that I can target the ground here, for instance, and unreal component will be set to fire form. This will be this I believe is Mallock's channeled animation, so that he will be, the unit itself here will be using a continuous animation so long as it's channeling a spell or a weapon. And now for the last part, which will be a little bit goofy. Behavior Wonder. If you've played Stormgate, then you've likely noticed that units are a little bit static. For instance, the unit here, it will not be, in other RTS games, the unit, when it is idle for long enough, it will be turning in random directions. This is possible in Stormgate, it's just that all of them has been set on a value of 0, and units has an fidget animation built into them, so you do not need a wonder behavior, which I will showcase when I get to the units. But the purpose of wonder behavior is for units to be walking around the place. So, for instance, I'll be setting a leash range to 50, meaning that within for instance, if I had Mallock here and a leash range of 50, then he will be wandering around in a radius of 50 where he was spawned. And I'll be setting to wander distance of 30 and a variance of 0, meaning that whenever the unit has been idle for long enough, it will be wandering at a minimum distance of 30 away from where they're currently standing within the leash range. And a variation means that if I have, for instance, had 10, then it will be a random value between 30 and 40, but I'll be setting this to 0. And wonder period. This, I believe, will be the cooldown for how often the unit will be idly walking about the place. So when I set this to 0, the moment the unit becomes idle, it will be walking in a random direction at a distance of 30. Now there are other values here for when it is turning, but I want this to, when the spell creates a new unit, the moment it spawns, it will be going in a random direction at a distance of 30 away from itself, which will be it will be trying to find units, meaning that it will potentially be going back and forth here. But as I have been creating 5 units every second, I believe, you'll be seeing how wild things goes as I spawn 1,000 units to look around the place. And now to apply these to the, did I set the, yes, I said Now I'll set this to Malloc. I'll be applying this spell onto him. And now for the gremlin, to apply the weapon and such. First thing first, weapon list. This will be volatile, meaning that the gremlin will have a weapon where it will be launching itself towards the target. And here I mentioned previously, fidget. This can be, this will be, for instance, how long it will take for the unit to turn in a different direction, and this parameter here you can be using to create a little bit more life to the unit to make the, for instance, the exo here turning in a random direction as it is idle with a built-in fidget. And behavior, this will be the behavior wandering to make it start walking around all over the place when it is idle, and the buffer, which will be so that it will have the gremlin will have a 10-second duration on its life the moment it is spawned. And now let's test the spell. And now to test the ability and swarm the place. Now initially they will not be able to find the target because they cannot see it, but the moment they get the vision of it, you will be seeing that it will be creating a continuous stream towards the closest target that it can see. Now you can see, and now they have found a target. And now they will be continuously streaming towards the closest thing that they can see. And now there is a total chaos with other units here, going willy-nilly, having no place to finding a target closest to them, but at the very least some of them will be finding a target at almost completely random. And that is the Volatile Horde. A somewhat goofy spell due to how the units will be wandering all over the place, but I was able to, that this is what I could make at a short notice with my experience with the game editor. Now to the next spell. Now for the last spell of the video, Mirror Image. This is a popular spell among most video game franchises and time settings. This will be teleporting the unit into one of 4 locations and create 3 decoys with timed life at the 3 remaining locations. Now let's get started. First thing first, I'll be having create unit. This will be used to create 3 decoys at the locations. I'll be setting this to point. The effect location will be point, and the facing here, this will be the facing start will be the caster, and the end so that away from the caster, so that it will be facing away from the center of the persistent that will be creating the decoys. And I'm having the impact effects. This will be used to create a small smoke bomb effect where the unit is created. Now as this goes on, you will see that I'll be using infiltrate, teleport in and teleport out at different spots. I'm not sure about in the list here, most of the spell effects are lumped into one giant list, and not everyone is compatible with others. And only some are compatible with teleport in and teleport out, which is why you will be seeing me using them at different points. And now for spawn effect, this will be this time life. This will be used in order to give the decoy unit a timed life, and I'm specifically setting it here instead of directly onto the unit data itself, because I need it to be created from the caster, so that for the validator to help me remove them manually later. And now for the spawn owner, this will be the caster, in order to make sure that the decoy unit of a spawn will belong to me, and the spawned unit will be medtech. I will be using an pink hero version of the medtech as the caster itself, named Unit Nox, but the decoy units will be the default medtechs. And next up is coming, I'll be giving the timed life to the decoy units. This will be the timed life, and this will be set to, yes, it's to the target, and I'm applying a smoke bomb effect here as well, for when the buff is applied. And now for the actual timed life buff itself, this would have a duration of 10, meaning, and a buff effect timed kill. When the buff expires after 10 seconds, the expire effect will be run and using a game kill effect in order to kill the unit. And sorry for another interlude here. I was supposed to use the hidden here in order to show progress here. I forgot to apply these tags, sorry, in order to make it more difficult for the enemy to determine who is the real unit or not, while simultaneously showcasing for you who is the true unit, or who is the fake units with a timer. And now for the kill timed. I'm having two game effect kills here, but the specifically here for when the buff expires, this will be the kill timed, and for this I'm using a smoke bomb effect and on death type remove. This will mean that when the unit dies, it will not have any dying animation. It will simply disappear, and it will play a smoke bomb effect in its place. And now to make the spell a little bit fancy, the caster will be temporarily turned completely invisible when I cast the spell for a brief moment. And I'll be setting this to temporarily removed, and the target will always be the caster when I cast this apply buff effect, and the effect will be infiltrate timed out in order to create a poof effect when the unit disappears. Now for the actually buff itself removed temporarily. This will be lasting for 1 second, and I'll be using the flags here, which will be, my apologies, it was not flag but applied tags. I'll be creating 2 applied tags. First will be status hidden. What this will do is that it will completely hide the unit. Even if you have a detection nearby, it will not be visible, and you will not be able to see the health bar either of the unit. And stunned, so that the hidden unit will not be walking around or attacking, for instance. So for the duration for 1 second, the unit will be stunned. And a brief interlude here. I forgot to add the effect expire here, which will cause once the buff expires, it will be teleporting the unit around the place. So now once the buff expires, it will actually teleport the unit and create 3 mirror images. And for the teleport, this will be used when when the persistent goes off and distribute these locations, then the actual unit will be teleporting a small distance in a small in a direction, and this will be the point target, so that it will be targeting the ground, and effect origin will be onto the caster. I'm uncertain about what effect origin actually means, but I simply set it to caster and it accomplishes what I wanted to do. And flanks, this will be used to set facing. This will mean that this will be controlling the direction it will be teleporting. I believe that, for instance, if I teleported the unit to the bottom right here, then the unit will still be facing the same direction. But I'll be setting this to. But with set facing, I believe it will be the unit will be switching the direction towards the direction where the unit is teleporting. At the very least, I believe that's how it works. And range minimum is by default set to 2. I'll be setting this to 0. And the teleported unit will be the caster. And now, in order to distribute the locations where the teleporting and created unit will appear. First thing first, location will be set to point. Not entity, will be set to point. So at the location where the persistent is casted will be where all the following offsets will be set from. And now for offsets, I'll be setting to. This will be I will be having four periodic effects, but first I will be setting the offsets. Now briefly let me set this up. And now for these offsets. From when the unit's cast on persistent where it is currently standing, each of the 4 consecutive period effects will be distributed in a distance of 4 away from the center, and the angle here will be having a 90-degree angle between each of the 4 points, so that this will be evenly distributed, so that they will be evenly spaced out 90 degrees from each other. Also, the facing start will be the caster point and 2 point, and this will be the targeting point, so that when I create when the unit will be facing the way it's teleporting, but the remaining 3 created units will be facing away from the center as well. Now that I've set the vector facing away from the caster point where the unit casted the persistent, and where the offset targets it. And now that the offsets are done, I'll be using the 4 periodics. A count of 4, the duration will be 0, and I'll be having 4 effects. First thing first, mirror image teleport, and I'll be having creating 3 units. So now when each of these offsets goes off, the first of these will mean that these will be distributed. These 4 periodic will be distributed at the 4 locations. But every time the this is used, then this will be casted in the same order, meaning that every time I will be, for instance, be teleporting to the bottom right or bottom left corner, making it predictable where the unit is placed. So this is why I will be copying this 4 times in order to change this up. Give me a moment. And now I have position 2. I will keep the offset, but now I will be removing the first teleport and create a new one. So now these 2 points, these 2 will be having the same offsets, but the teleported location will be different. And now I'll be repeating the same for 2 more times. And now I have 4 positions where the teleporting unit could potentially appear in any of the 4 corners of one of the 4 potential corners. And now I'll be using a subsequent persistence and create a random location with this. Now first thing first, the effect location will again be this will be the point of the target, meaning that this will be where I cast where the spell is casted. And now for the periodics, I'll be setting this to only 1, but I will be having 4 effects, and these will be the 4 positions. Also, just want to check something. Okay, good. I think that if you do not set a duration, then things will bug out. So even if it is 0 seconds, then all of the periodic counts will appear at the same time. So that's why I'm setting this to 0. And now, currently as this is set up, I have a count of 1. Every time this is run, it will run only at the top 1. But effect method, this will be used to run a random effect. Now I was thinking about doing this here and using effect method random as well, but when I tried it, I discovered that the random will not be playing all of them in 4 of them in a random order. It is completely random. So when I tried it initially, sometimes it would only create 2 mirror images instead of 3, or only 1 mirror image on teleporting the unit 3 times. So now this will be running 1 of the 4 potential locations, and this will be effectively randomizing which spot that the unit will be teleporting at, and only playing 1 of these effects. So now that I have random in the persistent randomizer here, that only has an count of 1. And now for game effect set, this is what will be directly tied into the staged ability. I've been using this to caster, and having the 2 game effects will be first thing first, search area, and the temporarily removed. So now when the unit uses stage ability, it will temporarily hide the unit, and it will be using search area, which will try to kill the fake mirror image units, which I will be setting up now. With first thing first, search area. This will be on a radius of 1 100 to make sure that I find all of the mirror images. And the game effect will be... this will be running on... now this will be running on game effect kill on all of the unit in the radius. But this is where the validator will be coming in. Now this will be a game effect kill here, which the search area will be applying to all of the units in the search area. And this will be using the death type remove as well, in order to remove any dying animation. And the effect will be the target. And this will be having a smoke bomb effect in order to give the appearance that the mirror images are vanishing. And now I'm having the validator here, meaning that only units that passes this validator will be killed in the search area. Now for the validator, this will be looking for if the target has a buff from a source. And this will be the mirror images timed life effect, which specifically sources from the caster. If I did not have this caster enabled, source caster, then if the enemy, for instance, casted the same spell and created 3 mirror images, and I casted the same spell afterwards with any targets, then my search area would kill the enemy's mirror images as well. So only the unit with the buffed timed life that specifically the caster of mirror images has casted will be killed in the process when the search area is launched. The reason why I have 2 different ones here also is because when the buff time life expires, then it will kill the mirror image. But this will happen after the buff expires, which will make if I had set the validator here, then the unit will not be passing the validator and would not be killed. So that is why I have 2 separate ones here. It is a little bit complicated. I'm not sure if I explained this properly, but that is why I have 2 separate game effect kill. And the button here, this will be the staged abilities command card, what it will look like. And now to assemble the spell. First thing first, this will be the mirror image set. This will be running the search area, which will kill the mirror images and make the caster temporarily hidden from the game. And I will having the cast duration of 1 in order to make the spell a little bit fancy. And I'm having the show progress here. When I set the show progress in stage ability, this will mean that this will having a smaller cast bar for the cast duration, which will be filling up to during the 1 second casting time. And having the target actor, this will be instant, meaning that I will not have to manually target the caster when I want to cast mirror images. And I'll be setting the targeting type to unit, so I do not accidentally by some freak chance cast it on the ground instead of the caster itself. And the unreal component, this will be when the unit casts its spell, the unit will have a small animation where it will be dragging the thingies here to the side for the duration of the cast time. That is what the Unreal component does in the stage ability. It is the unit itself's casting animation. And now to go into the Knox to apply the ability onto the unit. And now that the unit has the ability, let's go into the game and test the ability itself. And now for test the unit. Once I activate the unit, it will have a brief 1 second casting time, the unit will turn invisible for a brief moment, and it will appear in one of 4 spots with 3 decoys with timed life, or taking other place. Now as you can see, 3 decoys has been placed in the 3 other spots, which will, once the timer dies out, they will die. And now let's try it again and see if the decoys will be killed when I cast the spell again prematurely. Now let's see. Now as you can see, once I recast the spell, the decoys will be killed in the process. And there you have it. This is how to create mirror image in Stormgate. And that's it for the video. Again, if you have any requests you want me to make, comment so in the comment section. And I will try to create a last video for now to cover the PTR and some of the custom maps once they become available. Stay intact and have a nice day.